I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your Bullish Bit brought to you by bitrefill.com, your one-stop shop for living on a Bitcoin standard. Sign up and grab gift cards for eSIMs, gaming, e-commerce, your travel needs, food, and much more, and you can buy them all with Bitcoin and Lightning. Sign up today and use code BTC Sessions 10 for some special perks. I'm particularly bullish in and around human rights with Bitcoin as a tool for that. And I say this because I've kind of started working more closely with the Human Rights Foundation and trying to assist in wherever Bitcoin can be a useful tool in those instances. So there's a lot of times where there's dissidents in a particular spot where they might have the threat of censor transactions, shut down bank accounts, all of those kinds of things. And obviously, as Bitcoiners, we know that Bitcoin is censorship resistant. We know that there's nobody there to tell you no as long as you're taking self-custody and you're using Bitcoin as it was meant to be used. And so human rights activists are beginning slowly to clue into this, largely thanks to the work of Alex Gladstein and others at the Human Rights Foundation that, drew that connection and saw it as a useful tool there. And, I went to the Oslo Freedom Forum earlier this year. It wasn't my first time attending, and it was a fantastic event, and it was really cool to see those connections. But in chatting kind of behind the scenes with different human rights groups, I'm kind of selfishly excited about it in the way that I get to relive some of those aha moments where I see people start to piece together like, oh, wow, this is actually super useful. I didn't realize that this was a feature of Bitcoin. Or even the less positive stuff of trying to troubleshoot, because like Bitcoin is, sure, you can transfer value globally more or less instantly for very cheap, and nobody can censor those transactions. But there's a whole other mess of hurdles that exist once you transfer that value globally. Once it arrives to its destination, depending on the locale, how do you actually utilize that value in a way where you can get what you need locally? And that's very different depending on where you are. Sometimes you got to figure out some sort of a peer-to-peer thing locally and get the local currency and then get what you need. Or sometimes there are, peer-to-peer exchanges. Sometimes you can just get gift cards. Sometimes you can just go direct to businesses that accept Bitcoin, but it's kind of a mixed bag wherever you go. And so those are the things that in the background are starting to be worked out, are starting to be grappled with. Yes, we've now got the permissionless, censorship-resistant global value transfer available to us, but what the hell do we do with it once we get it? And those are gaps that aren't quite bridged everywhere yet and are going to require work. But what I'm seeing is that the work is being done and people are starting to say, okay, what can we do here? How can we piece this together? How can we do this in an adversarial environment where the government or various organizations don't want us to be successful? How do we work around that? And I think that's something that is incredibly valuable and that is getting more accessible to these people. And those with the least to lose, are always the ones that jump onto these technologies first. Basically, you're already kind of screwed. And so you need to rely on something like Bitcoin. But I see it getting more robust. I've had a number of calls, and I have more calls happening soon, where I actually get to work with these people that have real world problems, and Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form is actually beginning to solve these problems.